Hello everyone, and welcome to my presentation. The name of my presentation is called Love is Everything, an interview with Maria and Dominic. I chose to interview a longtime friend of mine that I went to Elms College with in Chicopee. Her name is Maria, and I chose to interview her in regards to her son Dominic, who was diagnosed with autism spectrum disorder. And the reason I chose the title Love is Everything is because towards the end of our interview, this was a quote that Maria used, and I just felt like it really stuck with me in regards to families with children who have this diagnosis. I hope you enjoy. I wanted to start by reading a quote that Maria provided me with in regards to how she felt about finding out about Dominic's diagnosis. And it goes, I was absolutely saddened to hear about Dominic's diagnosis. I followed all the rules during my pregnancy, and I always wondered what I could have done to avoid this. I felt lots of guilt for several months. It was a terrible time in my life. It made me a stronger mother to do whatever I possibly could do for my child, and I took every necessary step in doing so. My husband Tommy and I adapted to this new lifestyle, and we would change our routines and approach to accommodate needs. On the next slide, you'll notice I chose a picture of what looks like sound waves in various colors. Um, Autism spectrum disorder can be described as a spectrum disorder. And so I chose that picture because it really is like a spectrum of all different colors in a way that there are very diverse symptoms of autism spectrum disorder, in the way that someone can show one symptom and you can have someone show many of the symptoms that correlate with autism. My slide here gives you some examples of some of the symptoms that you can see. There are language delays, there can be pragmatic delays or social delays. Those can include eye contact or engaging in conversations. And just the thought processes, using logic and organization skills. And like I said, a child can present one of these items, or they can have what we call a more profound mixture, where they have all of these and it is more profound. Let's talk a little bit about Dominic and his specific symptoms with autism spectrum disorder. I was able to discuss these symptoms with Maria during the interview, but I did have the pleasure of being allowed to view a therapy session with Dominic and his therapist, Melissa. And Dominic is just such an amazing little boy, and it was just an amazing experience to be able to watch him interact with his speech therapist. And Melissa, his speech therapist, was just amazing. And it was really, really valuable to be able to watch her and the techniques she used to specifically work on each of these symptoms with Dominic. Some of the symptoms did include lack of eye contact. Maria and her husband Tommy did notice that Dominic did not respond to his name being called at home. There was a lack of pointing to objects, such as toys or things that Dominic needed or wanted. And I know that is one of the major symptoms that we discussed during our own classes. And Maria also talked about Dominic's language delays, and early on, he actually had no true words. So again, it was just amazing to watch this little boy and his speech therapist at that time and how they worked together on these symptoms. I wanted to share some information that I researched on my own during the time that I was interviewing Maria. And it is research that I did on diagnosing autism spectrum disorder. And what I want you all to know is the two major areas or parts of diagnosing autism spectrum disorder. The first is developmental screening, and this can be done at regular visits to your pediatrician. And they do distinct screening for autism at 18 and 24 months. That's good for parents to know. It's really important. And number two is comprehensive diagnosis evaluation. And this can be including the parents to find out more about the child's history and talk to the parents more in detail. And this is also where you would see different testing done, such as hearing, vision, neurological, and medical testing. I was able to discuss with Maria during the interview Shriners Hospital for Children and what a major role it played in Dominic's diagnosis and assisting Maria and her family in the right direction to go so that they could do whatever they needed to assist Dominic with this, and that they knew every resource available to them as parents, and to educate their other family members and friends. And like I said, the most important, to be able to assist Dominic. So if you look at this slide, it introduces you to the neurodevelopmental pediatrician who did provide the diagnosis to Dominic. His name was Dr. Kaplan, and he did diagnose Dominic through one of those detailed parts that I had talked to you about in the previous slide, and that is a thorough evaluation of Dominic. Um, One really important part of this interview was where Maria describes how she felt about the diagnosis, and she describes feeling shocked. She describes Dominic as being the perfect baby. He ate well, slept well. We all know how great it is when your infant sleeps through the night. He loved being in his swing. So for Maria, it was really shocking to hear this news. Maria described it as being a complicated and scary birth process when she gave birth to Dominic. He weighed 9 pounds, 4 ounces, and there were a lot of complications. It wasn't an easy pregnancy for her. I did specifically discuss with Maria. I did share a little bit
how
of
she
research that I
overcame
did
a lot of the
with the
challenges
Center
that
for
came with
Disease
this
Control,
diagnosis,
and it
as
does
well as
state that
how her
children with
family
complications at
overcame
birth
these
and
challenges and
those
worked together,
complications can include
again,
premature
for the
birth,
best
low
interests
birth
of
weight.
Dominic.
Those
And some of
children should
those
definitely be
items
screened
that Maria
routinely by a
described,
pediatrician,
some of the
specifically
specific
for autism
challenges that she
spectrum
described
disorder.
were
And I can
communication.
relate to that
She
as well. I
described
had two
being very
children that were born
frustrated. It was
premature.
frustrating for both
So
her
we
and
went
her
through a little bit
husband
of that
to not
process
be
as
able to
well.
communicate with Dominic. It was really hard to understand what he was saying, what he needed, what he wanted. And it was hard for Maria as a mother to not be able to provide that. She was able to learn sign language. Maria is just an amazing mother. I can't even describe to you how amazing she is. So, her and her husband did learn sign language so that they were better able to communicate with their son. They used pictures and labeling all throughout their house. Whether it be food that Dominic may want for breakfast, lunch, or dinner, that he would be able to point to with assistance in pointing. So you can see there's challenges that kind of interact with each other. Um, New routines. The whole family had to be introduced to new routines with this diagnosis. And those routines were built around being able to communicate in the best way possible and just being able to give Dominic a routine to make him feel more structured and to again assist him with this diagnosis and being able to live day to day in the best way possible. One of the huge challenges, as Maria described it, was the fact that Dominic was walking on his tippy toes. And this was another area where Shriners Hospital was able to come in and help.
However, Dominic did have to wear braces to assist with having his heels come down and to be able to walk normally. Maria did describe this as one of the hardest things that she had to go through with Dominic at that time. This next slide is described as angels on earth because during my interview with Maria, she described the providers for Dominic as angels. And some of those providers were the May Institute, CHD, the Meadowbrook School in East Long Meadow, as well as Melissa, his speech therapist, and many other providers and resources that Maria and her husband Tommy and the rest of her family were able to work with during this time. She can't really say enough, or couldn't really say enough during the interview about these providers and what an amazing job they did with Dominic and the support they provided her and her family. And again, for me as a student, it is really awesome to hear that I'm going to school and I can become a part of that. So she is very thankful. And again, she does describe them as angels. And that is why I chose this title for this slide. My next slide is titled The Special Olympics, and I am the most excited to discuss these next two slides because this is something that I have always heard of and that I actually participated in when I was younger. However, I did not realize that this was offered to children with autism spectrum disorder. And during my conversation with Maria, she actually brought up the Special Olympics and how the Meadowbrook School um, decided to do Special Olympics or get Dominic involved in Special Olympics because he wasn't feeling like he could keep up with the other students in sports. And this was something that he really loved. He wanted to play sports, and he would be extremely frustrated that he couldn't keep up with his peers. So the school did suggest getting him involved in the Special Olympics, and it was amazing for Maria and her family. Dominic excels now in soccer, and he's going to be starting bowling with the Special Olympics. So this was a really, really cool experience to hear about from Maria. And I did do some more research on Special Olympics. It did interest me a lot, and I wanted to make sure that I shared this with you guys. So it was founded by Eunice Kennedy Shriver. It started as a camp called Camp Shriver, and then it developed into the Special Olympics, and it's been going ever since. And Dominic now, like I had said, excels in soccer and is going to be participating in bowling. And Maria describes this experience as providing Dominic with so much motivation and so much self confidence. And she can't say enough about this program, the Special Olympics. I felt that in closing my presentation, it was really important to spread Maria and Dominic's message to all of you. Maria really does want everyone to understand what is available to them, that people are not alone in this diagnosis, and that there is amazing resources and amazing people out there, and what they have done to assist her family and her son. And I also wanted to close with just talking about being just so appreciative of being able to be allowed into their lives and just to be able to observe and learn more about Dominic, just an amazing little boy that has so much resilience and made so much progress. So some of the things that Maria wanted everyone to know is that there's hope. There's resources out there. You just have to be an advocate and find out about them. Um, Children are resilient. So we need to just realize that resilience plays a major role in this, and also family. that family support, that education for your family, and just making sure, like I said in the beginning, that you're providing that love and being an advocate for your child. So I hope that everyone enjoyed this presentation, and I hope that you've learned some new information as well as hearing some of the information that we've already learned in regards to autism spectrum disorder. I know after this, I'm really hoping to be involved more and learn more myself. Thank you very much.